The city pulsed with countless lights and murmurs of evening life. But for Amelia, it all blurred into a distant echo. She sat by the window of a small cafe near the old square, pretending to read the same page of her book over and over. In truth, her mind was restless, caught between hope and disbelief. She had promised herself long ago not to wait for coincidences, yet something unexplainable told her that tonight would not be ordinary. The wooden door creaked, announcing a new guest. A young man entered, brushing a few drops of rain from his coat. His name was Adrian, though she did not yet know it. He was tall, his posture elegant yet relaxed, and his eyes held the deep color of the sea before a storm. He paused for a moment, scanning the room as though searching for something or someone. Amelia lowered her gaze to her book, but her heart skipped when their eyes suddenly met. For one fragile instant, the hum of voices and clinking of cups seemed to vanish. It was as if the world itself had stopped to witness their connection. Adrian walked to the counter, ordered a simple black coffee, and noticed the empty chair at Amelia's table. He hesitated, weighing the invisible pull against the fear of disturbing her. Yet the quiet force drawing him closer proved stronger than doubt. With a gentle voice, he asked if the seat was taken. Amelia nodded before she realized her lips had moved. They exchanged polite words at first: the weather, the rain, the charm of the old cafe. But beneath each sentence lingered an unspoken curiosity, a warmth that flickered like a candle. Amelia, usually guarded, felt the careful walls around her begin to tremble. Adrian, who often appeared distant even to friends, found himself leaning in, laughing more easily, studying her every expression. When at last he stood to leave, his hand lingered on the back of the chair. It seemed he fought with himself, uncertain whether to break the delicate magic stretched between them. Finally, he offered her a soft smile, one that carried both promise and mystery. Almost without thinking, he murmured that they would meet again. Amelia whispered goodbye, though inside she knew with startling clarity something had begun. Something fragile, beautiful, and unstoppable. Something that would change everything. Days passed, yet Amelia could not free herself from the memory of that evening. The cafe still carried the faint echo of their laughter, and she returned there twice, though Adrian never appeared. Each time she told herself it was foolish, yet her heart betrayed her by listening for the creak of the door. She did not believe in fate, and still, something in her longed for a thread to be woven again. Adrian, too, carried the memory with him. At night, when silence filled his apartment, he replayed her smile in his thoughts. There was a gentleness in her presence that disturbed the calm order of his life. He had been a man of routines, someone who measured his days with precision. Yet since meeting Amelia, his steps felt lighter, as if guided by an invisible rhythm he had never known before. On the third evening, as if destiny had finally yielded, they met again. Amelia had chosen a bench near the old square, beneath lanterns that cast golden circles of light. She sat with her book, though once more she was not reading. Adrian appeared at the far end of the square, his figure outlined against the glow of the lamps. Their eyes met in the same way as before, unexpected, overwhelming, and strangely inevitable. He approached slowly, as if afraid the moment might vanish if he moved too quickly. Amelia closed her book, a shy smile curling at her lips. "You again," she whispered under her breath, though he could not hear. But when Adrian stopped in front of her, the silence between them felt as eloquent as any words. They began to walk together through the narrow streets, their steps unhurried. The night air smelled of rain and jasmine from nearby gardens. Every detail seemed more vivid: the shimmer of wet stones, the quiet murmur of fountains, the gentle brush of his shoulder against hers. Their conversation wandered between trivialities and sudden confessions, as if they had known each other for years. By the time they parted, the square was empty, the lanterns flickering softly. Adrian hesitated, then took her hand briefly, almost reverently. That simple touch lingered long after they walked away in different directions, two souls already bound by a secret promise they had never spoken aloud. The following week unfolded like a gentle melody, filled with stolen glances and unexpected meetings. Adrian and Amelia had begun to see each other almost by accident, though deep down, both knew it was no accident at all. Sometimes it was a chance encounter near the bookshop, other times a quiet walk through the park where the old bridge arched gracefully over the river. That bridge soon became their secret place, a silent witness to a story still in its beginning. On a cool evening, they found themselves there once more. The lanterns along the river glowed faintly, their reflections trembling in the current. Amelia rested her hands on the railing, gazing at the rippling water. Strange, she thought. How quickly someone can step into your life and feel like they were always meant to be there. Adrian stood close enough to sense the warmth radiating from her, yet far enough to keep the moment tender. He told her about his childhood summers spent by the sea, about books that had shaped him, about dreams he rarely shared. Amelia listened intently, her eyes sparkling in the dim light, as though his words were weaving themselves into her own memories. When she spoke, her voice carried both fragility and strength. She confessed how solitude had been her shield, how trust had always come slowly. But now, with him, the silence between them felt safe, not empty. Adrian reached for her hand then, not with urgency, but with reverence, as if asking for permission without words. She did not pull away. The river whispered below, carrying away the weight of unspoken fears. Above them, the stars broke through scattered clouds, small lanterns of their own. They stood side by side, hands entwined, breathing in the fragile magic of something that was no longer just beginning, but already growing roots. Neither said it aloud, but both knew the bridge was no longer just wood and stone. It had become a promise, fragile yet eternal, that their paths were meant to intertwine. The warmth of their growing bond was undeniable, yet with it came the quiet arrival of shadows. Love, Amelia had always feared, carried not only joy but also the risk of loss. As she walked home after another evening with Adrian, her thoughts trembled between happiness and unease. She had let someone into her guarded world, and though it felt beautiful, it also left her vulnerable. Adrian, too, wrestled with unspoken doubts. He had built a life of independence, a fortress of self-reliance. Letting Amelia into that space meant surrendering, a part of the control he had always clung to. Some nights he caught himself wondering if feelings this strong could last, or if they were destined to fade like the glow of lanterns after rain. One evening, as they sat together on the bridge, the silence between them was heavier than usual. Amelia's gaze lingered on the river, her hands folded tightly on her lap. Adrian noticed the change, the small distance in her posture. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly. Though he feared the answer, she hesitated, searching for words. Finally, she whispered, "I'm afraid of losing something before I truly have it." Her voice trembled, fragile as glass. Adrian reached out, covering her hand with his. "I don't have answers," he admitted. "But I know this. Whatever tomorrow brings, tonight is ours, and I don't want fear to steal it from us." His words did not erase the doubts, but they softened them. Amelia leaned against his shoulder, letting the rhythm of his heartbeat steady her own. The river beneath them seemed to carry away their worries, at least for that night. As they walked home side by side, their steps matched once again. The fears remained, quiet but persistent, like shadows at the edge of light. Yet amid that fragility, love grew stronger, tested not by perfection, but by the courage to hold on despite uncertainty. Spring crept gently into the city, painting the streets with blossoms and filling the air with the scent of renewal. For Amelia and Adrian, the season seemed to mirror their hearts, fragile yet bursting with life. Weeks of shared evenings, whispered confessions, and quiet laughter had woven them together, though doubts had sometimes cast their shadows. Yet love, tested by fear, now glowed brighter. One afternoon they returned to the old bridge, their silent sanctuary. The river shimmered with sunlight, scattering silver across the water. Amelia leaned on the railing, her hair dancing in the breeze, while Adrian stood beside her, his hand brushing lightly against hers. No grand speeches were needed. The weight of their presence was enough. Adrian turned to her, eyes reflecting both strength and vulnerability. "I don't know what the future holds," he admitted, his voice steady yet soft. "But I do know this. I don't want to walk through it without you." Amelia's breath caught. For years she had lived behind walls, convinced love was too fragile to trust. Yet here, under the sky that seemed to stretch endlessly above them, she felt those walls crumble for good. She placed her hand firmly in his. "Then let's walk it together," she whispered. The moment was simple, yet it carried the weight of a vow. The bridge, once just wood and stone, now held their unspoken promise. Around them, the city carried on. Children laughed in the distance. The river flowed endlessly, but for them, time slowed. As they walked away side by side, their hands intertwined, Amelia realized she was no longer afraid. Love was not about certainty. It was about courage. Adrian glanced at her, and their smiles met like sunlight breaking through clouds. Tomorrow remained unwritten, but it no longer frightened them. For in each other they had found not only love, but the strength to face the unknown, and that was the beginning of forever.